Recognizing the member from Surrey Panorama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure today to rise and speak in support of a transformative budget that was put forward by the Finance Minister. And I want to say that budgets don't just materialize. There's a whole group of people that do incredible work. And it's just like when you put together your family budget. You look at where the needs are. It's not always equal, but you look for equitable distribution of the budget to try to have economic growth, but also support those who are going through challenging times. And I'm really happy to see that this budget reflects those priorities of this government. Very, very different than a government of a different ilk. When a previous government chose to strip collective agreements, cut out health care workers, contract out their jobs, and created chaos and economic uncertainty for so many people. And as I was a teacher at that time, I can actually, I almost get PTSD when I think about the experiences that teachers went through in the classroom as they faced those horrendous cuts in supports to special needs kids and eventually to supporting teachers and classroom teachers. So, on the other hand, Madam Speaker, BC is a wonderful place to live. There are many who were born here and others who have chosen to make BC home. And we know that because it is such a beautiful province, that we have more and more people wanting to put down roots and raise a family here. I'm one of those. I arrived in BC in 1977, and my intention was to stay for 6 months or maybe a year. That was 77. So 2 children, 3 grandchildren, and one great-grandchild later, we are here and so happy we made that decision. Here in BC, why are people attracted to British Columbia? Number one has to be our geography. It is second to none. But also, when you look at our economic forecasts, we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in Canada. The lowest unemployment rates in Canada. And we're a leader in growing jobs and growing wages for working people. Just announced recently and now tied to the cost of living is our minimum wage. Our minimum wage will be at $17.40, and that is truly something to be proud of for everybody in this House, because we know that even at that minimum wage, it is very, very difficult to meet the challenges of running a household today. But we have one of the best minimum wages in the country, and we are competitive to attract workers at a time we're hearing that there is a worldwide worker shortage. So it's these kind of actions that send a message that in British Columbia we want to have economic growth, but we're not going to be leaving workers behind. We're going to be looking after the people who work and build this province. There will be some, many in the last few days from across the aisle, who have said they bemoan the fact that we have this huge deficit, they call it. Yes, there is. But one thing I can tell you, Madam Speaker, if there is one thing we have learned over the last few years, especially as we went through COVID, is that during challenging times when some are facing bigger challenges than others, it is always best if we can work together and support each other through these challenging times. By working together and supporting those that are in need, we can keep building on BC's strong foundation so people can build a good life here for themselves and their families. Madam Speaker, we mustn't forget that we are an economic leader, not only in growing jobs, but when you look at our debt to GDP ratio, it's the 3rd lowest in the country. It's the third lowest in the country. There isn't any government that sort of governs to say, let's see if we can grow the deficit or the debt. But governments, like families, have to make choices. And when I look at this budget, I'm proud of the choices made by this government. They have made these choices because they know we have to support young children. We have to support renters. We have to support people to get into the housing market. We have to tackle the childcare challenges that many families continue to face. They know that as well as growing jobs, we also have to make sure that we look after each other. And we have to face those challenges together. And at the same time, being very cognizant of the fact that the investments we make are going to grow jobs. As we invest in building more schools, more hospitals, more childcare centers, those are not just facilities that are going to provide services. That is infrastructure that is going to support good paying jobs. You need people to build infrastructure. I can remember a time, long time ago, when people who were more, even I would say more conservative leaning, recognized the value of investing in infrastructure for this province. I may not have agreed with them on every other aspect, but there was a time when there was a belief that you need to build infrastructure today for tomorrow. So I'm very, very proud of what is in this budget for helping us to build the infrastructure. I want to talk a little bit about education now, Madam Speaker, because as you all know, it's a topic that is very dear to my heart. I've been a teacher all my life. And one thing I've always said, that investment in education and in our youth is an investment in the future. And it's an investment that every single one of us needs to make. It doesn't matter if you have children or not. Because when children go to school to be educated, those are your future plumbers, your doctors, your lawyers, your nurses, your engineers, your healthcare workers. And every one of us benefits with a well-educated population right here in British Columbia. And once again, I'll hear, this isn't here, that isn't done, but I will tell you, I don't think I've ever heard anybody on this side of the House said, we finished, everything is done. What I say is, we have done lots, but we have lots more to do. And that is because we followed on to, or we came after a government that really did not believe in investing in people, investing in public education, investing in healthcare, or investing in infrastructure. And nobody recognizes that as much as the people of British Columbia, and especially, I would say, people in Surrey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about education in Surrey. When I first ran to be an MLA back in 2017, we had approximately, well, just below 7,500 students in portables. But as we all know, Surrey is a fast-growing city. And at our meeting with the school board just a few weeks ago, what they said was that where they were a few years back, like even 3-4 years ago, where they were adding 650 new students to the K-12 sector, that this year they're in line to add 2,300 new students. 2,300 new students per year moving into Surrey and looking for school space. You know, how much has been invested in Surrey in the way of into the school system, building schools? Over 700 million, Madam Speaker. That has meant that since 2017, 8,190 new seats from 17 projects that are completed. Not talking about work in progress, though that's very popular with me as a teacher. This is 8,100 new seats from 17 projects that are completed. 4,155 new seats coming from 10 new schools and schools in construction, design, or prefabricated additions. So when you add those numbers together, you're looking at well over 12,000. And I want to take us back to 2017, when there were just over 7,000 students in portables. So you can see the amount of investment that has gone into Surrey. But there is also this huge growth that is happening in Surrey, and there is still lots more to be done. But I always like to go right down to Surrey Panorama. After all, those are the wonderful people of Surrey Panorama who elected me and sent me here. And I am always honored and humbled by their trust in me. So in Surrey Panorama alone, $108.3 million has been invested in schools. Since 2017, 1,295 seats from 4 projects that are completed, and 655 seats for a brand new elementary school, Stokomish Elementary, which is to be completed. It's in process. I've visited the building site. It is well on its way. And then, of course, there is a school that just is right next to me, and under the new divisions is part of the redistribution. And that school is going to get 573 or 23 new classrooms added. That shows that in Surrey Panorama alone, over 2,500 new seats have been added. As I said, lots done, lots more to go. I look at Woodward Hill Elementary, Panorama Park Elementary, Sullivan Elementary, and now, of course, a brand new Stokomish Elementary. And Sullivan High School, which is right across the way from my office, right next to the Bell Center, added 700 new seats. And that school is open, and of course, it is full, because we have a fast-growing population. There are other ways we need to support our school system as well, and often we heard from parents that they have to do so much fundraising in order to even get something as simple as the school playgrounds updated. And I'm very happy to say that in Surrey Panorama, T.E. Scott, Sullivan Elementary, and Goldstone Park all have new playgrounds due to the funding provided by this government, and that program continues. Of course, there's also the Feeding Futures program, and Surrey has received $8.4 million over the next 3 years to make sure that a school meal program is provided. And I've had the privilege to build that, to visit those schools and see what a huge difference it is making in the lives of kids. And of course, because of the growth, other investments have gone into education, but I'm not going to sit here and walk you through each and every one of them. But this just gives you an idea of the infrastructure that is being built to support students in Surrey and in Surrey Panorama. And parents tell me that they really appreciate the monies they get, and Surrey Panorama parents received $144,000 to their packs. That means parents are not having to sell as many hot dogs or wrapping paper or other things in order to function as a successful pack. You know, Madam Speaker, there are so many good things that we can find in this budget. And I have to admit that one of the stellar programs is childcare overall. And since we have been in government, we have made a huge difference in the lives of workers, working women, of families, and of young children. And just to give you an example, in Surrey Panorama, we have 76 licensed childcares. If any of you don't know my riding is mainly a residential riding, and it has very few service organizations, so to speak, maybe one or two, and that's it. But it is definitely a residential area. And these licensed childcares are in schools, homes, and standalones. 3 of them are in schools for after-school care and before-school care, which is truly amazing. So the total amount of childcare investments since 2018 for Surrey is close to $424,663,651. And Surrey Panorama, that's my riding alone, is over 42 million. And that is a commitment to quality childcare that actually speaks right there. Childcare seats that are being funded for Surrey is 4,014. Now, this is one that often doesn't get talked about, and we need to be aware of this. In Surrey, parents, money that was returned to families, money that gets spent in the communities to buy additional food, clothing, or even take a holiday. But all this money goes to support our small and medium-sized businesses. These parents are not the kind that are going to be sending off their money to the Canary Islands to some tax shelter. This money gets spent in the communities. So in Surrey, the money returned to the parents is over $232 million. $232 million back in the pockets of parents. And for Surrey Panorama, it's $25,288,673. That's not small change, Madam Speaker. That makes a huge difference to people's lives. And yes, Madam Speaker, I'm proud that Surrey has 620 $10 a day childcare spaces. Is that all we're going to be building there? Absolutely not. That is a good number for now, and we, as I said before, lots done, lots more to do. But as I said, when you put together a budget, and by the way, at this rate, we should always do shout-outs to others who do good work. And I do want to say a huge thank you to the federal government for recognizing the importance of childcare and making sure there is affordable childcare available. It was an area that I did quite a bit of work on when I was a Member of Parliament, and it's very dear to my heart. So I do want to thank the current government for making sure that they are providing support to the provinces to implement the $10 a day childcare. So a big, big thank you to them. And once again, when we invest in childcare, and there's lots of science to support this and data, for every dollar we spend, we get $5 back. So this is incredible returns for this kind of an investment that this government is making. But it's more than that. It means good paying jobs. We have made sure that the pay for the childcare workers has received lifts, not just once, more than once. Is it perfect yet? As I said, lots done, lots more to go. Also, new childcare centres have to be built. But also, let me tell you, what happens is that creates jobs. But now, imagine the number of women and men who were staying at home to parent. It applies to both. We're an equal opportunity government here. So what it means is that more parents are able to get back to work, and they're able to focus on their work because they know their children are receiving quality childcare. And that is really, really important. And that is a huge economic boost, not just in the short term, but long term. And we know that when children get quality childcare, that It saves us in the long run in healthcare and in education. Not only is it good for the kids, good for the families, it makes good economic sense to keep investing in childcare. And I'm so happy that we have done so much, lots done, lots more to do. Now let's get to housing, one of the favorite topics. As I said, I am a teacher. And when I first bought my house back in England, I was told that the maximum debt load I should take on is 3 times my gross income. Madam Speaker, if we were to apply that to teachers today, even teachers who've been teaching for 10 years, what we would be looking at is a house that's worth $300,000. And you and I know that it's very, very difficult, I would say almost impossible in Surrey, to find a house for that price. So it is important that we start looking at rentals and making sure that we have affordable rentals, but also that we look at below market housing, social housing, which is very, very critical, but also we need to start addressing housing for the middle class, for our doctors, for our, they make a little bit more than teachers, I think a lot more, but for our firefighters, for our police officers, for our healthcare workers. Because if we cannot, and for our childcare workers, if we cannot address housing for those middle income workers, how are we going to find workers if they cannot afford to house themselves or get into the housing market? And I've heard a lot of excitement over the flipping tax and the home vacancy tax, and I absolutely am 100% in disagreement with the opposition leader, who basically says that the flipping tax is unnecessary. The flipping tax is there. It's not the magic bullet. I think I heard the Premier saying that this morning on the news. It's not the magic bullet, but it's one way of making sure that houses that are built are homes. They are not a commodity that is flipped. Now, if you have extenuating circumstances, you've lost your job, you're relocating, your family situation has changed, it doesn't apply to you. But you know something? I'm glad it is here, just as the vacancy tax on housing created lots of new housing on the market. I'm hoping that this will also draw people to that. And by the way, it doesn't apply to builders who are growing the housing supply. This actually applies to a lot of people who just buy a house, sell it in a year, sell it again, sell it again. And we've seen that happening over and over again. But so much more than that is the recognition that as a government, our responsibility is to make sure those people who are working in the middle income area, as well as those who are at the low income area, have affordable housing that meets their needs. And I've had nothing but good things said to me by people of Surrey when they talk about the fact that the zoning changes or that have been suggested for fourplexes or duplexes and additional suites is truly welcome way, not only to increase housing, but it will help to offset the cost of housing for those who make the initial investment and buy the house. And Madam Speaker, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about healthcare, but I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try to condense things a little bit. It takes time to build a house. I know that because I went through that experience myself. Building a hospital takes even longer. But I'm glad to say that the new hospital in Surrey is being built. You can drive by it, you can see that we are well on our way. But as well as the hospital, what we need are doctors, nurses, healthcare workers. And I'm very, very proud of the work that the Health Minister has done, and along with the Finance Minister, in ensuring that we become a place that attracts healthcare workers. When I look at the number of nurses we've added, the doctors we've added, and other healthcare professionals, it's heartwarming. So when I hear my colleagues talking about the burgeoning public service, I want to say, with all the new people who've arrived here, yes, we've got more teachers. Yes, we've got more doctors. Yes, we've got more nurses. Yes, we've got more healthcare workers. And that's what happens when you have a growing population. And, you know, Surrey is not only getting a new hospital, but we are getting a cancer treatment centre that I think will serve south of Fraser really, really well. You know, as a mother of a daughter who is diagnosed with cancer, I can tell you that this means a lot, because that new hospital is not only going to have state-of-the-art treatments, it's going to have research attached to it, and I'm so looking forward to those kind of facilities being available south of Fraser as well. As it's, you know, when I look at this budget, I look at the way families look at their budget. When family sits down and they look at what are the needs, what are the absolute basic needs, and then they start building out. Can they do everything in 1 year or 2 years? That's why our childcare plan is over a 10-year plan. That's why the housing plan is not a 1-year plan, it's spread out over 5 to 7 years. Not only because we have to make sure that we have the workers to build, but we also need to make sure that we have those who can work in those facilities. So there is a plan, and I'm glad to see that the Health Minister has put the work into the healthcare that is needed to make sure that our trajectory is going in the right direction. I know what it's like in Surrey Memorial Emergency Room. I have been there. I've spent more time there than I ever want to spend again. But I can tell you this, with a new hospital opening, when it opens, and with the kind of streamlining and the extra work that's been done at Surrey Memorial, with the expansion at Peace Arch Hospital, expansion at Langley Hospital, and other facilities being nearby, I think we are moving in the right direction. And absolutely, we are going there. When it comes to schools, do we need to be building a lot more schools? Absolutely. I was flabbergasted to hear one of my colleagues from the other side speaking about, it's easy, just add more kids to a classroom. Okay? We'll need to have bunker desks then, right? Like, really? What we need to do is make sure our children get a quality education, and that does not happen when you keep increasing class sizes, and besides, those are negotiated into collective agreements. Mind you, there was a previous government that totally ignored that and ripped all those provisions out of the collective agreement, and then needed to be smacked by the Supreme Court of Canada to reinstate. So, Madam Speaker, this budget is a balanced budget in that it recognizes the challenges we have. It invests into the future, into growing a good labour force, strong labour force. It invests in infrastructure to grow decent paying jobs. But at the same time, through, I could have spoken for another 2 hours, through many other measures, what it's doing is it's also supporting those who are in need, whether it's with increased childcare credits, whether it's with a rebate on the hydro bill or your gas bill. So there are many things in this budget, and but sometimes when I listen to my colleagues from the other side, for whom the sky is falling, let me tell you, Madam Speaker, since 2017, every single day, I have been grateful that we have this government in power to see us through some very difficult and internationally challenging times, because we know if they were on this side, what we lived through in the year 2000 was not very pleasant. nor was it in 2001, nor in 2002. So I'll finish off by doing a huge thank you to our Finance Minister for being prudent, for taking on the challenge to create a budget that supports families and sends a message: together we are stronger. Together we can ride through this. Thank you.